Doug, doing good?
I know, I realized that after the fact.
Call the meeting to order. We'll start with Secretary calling attendance, please.
Chair Candler,
Here.
Vice Chair Bauer,
Here.
Mr. Bowman, Mr. Brown,
Here.
Mr. Hobbs, Mr. Oberlin.
And Commissioner Hobbs has called and says he'll be here in a couple minutes. So would somebody make a motion to excuse him until he's here, please?
Support.
Without objection, he's excused until he gets here. He's tied up in road construction, we hear. The next item is establishment of future meeting dates. We've had to bounce that around a little bit, and partly because of me. I apologize for that. But Madam Secretary, you want to talk about what we ended up with?
So the next meeting date that we have on our calendar is Monday, June 17th of 2024. We'll be meeting at 11 a.m. in the House Appropriations Committee room. That has all been confirmed as of this morning and will be on the Capitol's website this afternoon.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. Anybody have any comments, questions, corrections? Moved by
Support.
Mr. Brown and supported by Vice Chair. Anybody opposed? Unanimous support for the minutes of the last meeting. Thank you. They're very good minutes. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Next thing on our agenda is report of our Executive Director. Rob, can you come up and, Rob's been busy, and the whole staff's been busy, I noticed, by looking at the list of things that we have on the agenda. So I appreciate hearing about it, Rob.
Good morning, Commissioners. Can everyone hear me good here? Thank you. As you know, we always have more projects going than I share, so I won't keep you here for a couple hours, but I will share with you the highlights of the ones that that are worth mentioning. Number one, first and foremost, our rotunda restoration is finally completed ahead of schedule. I know we are saving a great deal of money and a month in advance, but the scaffolding is coming down, and I was up there even last Friday, and we are already almost to the 4th floor. But just getting on top of the scaffolding at that level and looking up, its yield, the results are just incredible of the bright paint, how clean it is, and you forget how beautiful that view is until you go up and see it again. So we're really looking forward to sharing that with everyone as we continue to take the scaffolding down. The great thing, once the scaffolding is down all the way, we will have our glass floor contractor arrive on site for the first time to really start evaluating how many pieces of glass we want to replace. And just to remind you, to make a long story short, It took 25 years to find the right contractor who could find the right color and the cooling patterns on the glass to replace over the years. So 976 pieces of glass are on the floor. We estimate between 250 and 300 pieces have been replaced over the years, but they're all different colors of blues and greens and whites. So what we're looking to do is replace all the pieces that are not original with the right specifications, so when it's put back together, it is a true restoration and all the pieces match. The great part about that as well, we now have a specification and a vendor moving forward, so any repairs that have to be done in the future will be done and pretty much seamless. So we're really looking forward to bringing that vendor on site and continuing our rotunda restoration.
Rob, I have one question. Talking about the glass floor, what did you say the weight was of the scaffolding sitting on the glass floor?
Yeah, the scaffolding we had up there for this project was 140,000 pounds and over 10,000 pieces. So that's why it takes about a month to take it down, because there are so many pieces.
It's amazing that a glass floor can hold that.
Yeah,
And I know it's
as
supported
you noticed, we had
underneath,
angle irons on the ground floor, and even underneath, we had shoring that went all the way down to the ground into the foundation of the Capitol, just to support that. This is an effort that, even though they did this 30 years ago, we did bring on a structural engineer just to be safe. I mean, the last thing we want to do is have anything happen to the building under our watch, so we took an extra step to make sure it was safe and sound. Following the rotunda restoration, we're going to continue with our decorative paint efforts and start on the 4th floor, mostly in the west wing. The inspection phase will start in May and June of this year, which will be followed by scope development, soliciting the work, evaluating the bids, and selecting the contractors for this part of the project. So we anticipate the physical work on the services to basically start near winter. A lot of it will be done on lifts and inspections and really examining what the issues are. And that does take some time. So we won't have any actual scaffolding up till this winter in that 4th floor. And I'll keep everyone up to date as that comes along.
I noticed the other day that there was some scaffolding being put on the 4th floor. What is that for?
There's a scaffolding over on the south side where the stairs are.
Correct.
That's an area that's low traffic anyway, and it was more cost effective to put that piece of scaffolding up now than to demobilize and put it back. To be quite frankly, it was a $30,000 savings to put it up now instead of doing it again.
Okay, thanks,
So we
Rob.
elected to do that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. This summer, we're going to look at replacing the Heritage Hall flooring, as we've discussed. The carpet that is in Heritage Hall in the staterooms is not performed well at all. It's hard to keep clean and shows signs of wear that in our mindset is premature wearing. And this is a carpet that since you're well aware, since we opened Heritage Hall, did not perform. So the project is scheduled for the last 2 weeks of July and the first 2 weeks of August. We'll put some extra terrazzo in there with a carpet that is more of a, I'm not gonna call it a mosaic, but a more modern mosaic of the traditional carpets that are here in the Capitol. And it is U.S. Axminster, it is on order, and it is scheduled to arrive in July. So it's gonna be right on time. As part of this project, we're starting to have conversations with Matt Van Acker and his group down in the tour guides to maybe just move the tour guide operations up to ground floor, east wing in the north orientation room. There is going to be some dust and there's going to be some smells, and the tour guide service is not especially busy with tours that time. So we thought, just to alleviate any dust or smells or anyone, we're going to start the operation there. So start the tours on the ground floor east wing. But I'll share with you more as that plan develops. Also this summer, when the legislature adjourns, we're going to replace the Senate elevator. Our schedule is to start that on Monday, July 8th, and the project should be completed by Labor Day if all goes as planned. I will keep in touch with you, Secretary of the Senate, as far as the schedule goes, and if legislature adjourns later, then we'll start later. As you remember, last year, we worked on the 3rd floor bathrooms and completed a complete upgrade on them. The main part of that was a fiberglass lining which insulated the interior of the old piping that's in there that was calcified and starting to show cracking. It's very difficult to try to remove that piping. As a matter of fact, it would be a bad surgery trying to remove 140-year-old plaster to remove the pipes. So the modern method of putting a fiberglass sleeve was very successful. We're going to continue that operation this summer when the House adjourns. Now keep in touch with Clerk Brown on that, and upgrade the second floor House chamber bathrooms. But while we're back there, we'll upgrade the cabinets, the fixtures, paint all the surfaces, and give it a good cleaning. But if we start, let's say, July 8th, we'll be done by Labor Day as well. But I'll keep in tight communication with you to make sure that operation goes successfully, and also share with you more detail you can share with your staff and the folks on that side. Also in the House chamber, we're going to replace all the House TV lighting with LED fixtures. Last summer, we did this in the Senate chamber successfully, so we are continuing this effort and getting rid of the old light bulbs and that overheat and damage the decorative surfaces with the LED fixtures. To see what it looks like, stop in the Senate chamber, but the lighting of the cans will match the painting of what's going on in the House chamber, so it should just blend in. You won't be able to tell the difference. We are getting ready to embark on a partnership with the House, the Senate, and the executive offices on a building-wide project. This building-wide project is a heat mapping of the entire building to help us identify the communication array of all the Wi-Fi access points. We did this in Heritage Hall with success. It helped us place access point devices which broadcast the Wi-Fi signals to the devices, so there really aren't any dead spots. We know that the Capitol is a very difficult place to place those and try to figure out where those are. So we are having a kickoff meeting in a few weeks to start talking about this body of work. And then when it's done, it'll yield great results of where to put these access points, and then we'll watch closely to make sure those aren't placed on any decorative surfaces. We'll put them in the correct places, but it should improve the Wi-Fi access broadcasting for the entire building and all branches of government that are in here, the legislature and the executive committee. The last thing I wanted to talk about is kind of an exciting project that we've talked about for some years. Some years just going back 5, to be quite frankly, when we were in the middle of the infrastructure project. But during the infrastructure project, we looked at all the different ways we could bring technologies in here. We brought in our geothermal systems, but at the time we thought about adding solar panels to the roof where the skylights were, to start pulling off the electrical grid. Back then it was not cost effective, and the technology really hasn't perfected itself. But just in 5 years, the microtechnology has come so far that we're getting ready to do another cost-benefit analysis and a feasibility study and use what they call voltaic skylights. So voltaic skylights, what is that really? To put it quite bluntly, it is a type of solar panel that looks like and acts like a regular sheet of glass, but it's full of solar cells in the glass. If all goes as planned, we'll not only replace the skylights, but we'll have the opportunity to start pulling a percentage of our electrical energy away from the utility provider, and it's another green technology that we can add to the Capitol. So if you look up from the street when these are installed, it'll look no different than what you see today, and that's really important because we don't want to have it look like solar panels in a field to pull off the grid. Loring Engineers, who's worked on this type of thing before, was the engineering group that we hired during the CIU project. I have a call with them this week, and also with Ben Tellian, our architect of record from Quinn Evans will be on that call with us. Even though we have a couple years before we need to replace those skylights, we want to do due diligence and do the research to make sure this is something that's feasible and exciting to share as another energy-saving project here at the Capitol building. So I will definitely keep you all abreast of that. But it's just exciting. I know I'm not expressing how excited I am, but it is an exciting project when we work with all the things we work here in the Capitol building. That kind of gives a summation of the actual projects that are going on. The next item on the list I would like to talk about is the new addition of our First Lieutenant Jay Poupard. So First Lieutenant Fahad Qureshi left us, and he is now the command post, or the post commander for the city of Flint, Michigan State Police. So Jay Poupard comes from, he was the head of Governor's Detail, which brings a lot of great experience, so it's almost a bridge with that the communication of the Governor's Detail, but he now oversees the Michigan State Police post for the Capitol, and we've already had a couple meetings with him, and very communicative and a great supporter of everything that we do. So it's going to be a good partnership moving forward, especially with the layers of security that we've added over the last year. He's currently up to breast and up to speed with everything that we're doing, and also has some great suggestions. So as we have a capital enforcement team meetings, he'll start taking place with those meetings. And he's also worked with our analyst, Kristen. So there's a great add to our security team here. In one of the inserts that you have, you'll see an advertisement from the Association of Preservation Technology. We are actually hosting a conference workshop on June 21st in the morning of June 22nd. We're pretty excited about this. What this is, it's the first time that it's going to illustrate and share all the documentation efforts that we've made up to this point. The morning session, and I try to make this as non-technical as possible, but it's a pretty technical definition. We have created a three-dimensional model of the Capitol building that with gaming technology, you can actually on a computer screen walk through it. You will be able to go through, and today, this will be the first time we've shared this with even some of our staff, but to some of the people in the industry. You can walk through, and for instance, I could walk right into this room digitally from my house, and I can see what the temperature and the humidity levels are. I'll be able to see if the lights are on or the lights are off. I can click on the surfaces. It'll bring up our work order program. It'll tell us what outstanding work orders are due, when the next services are complete. So it really is a three-dimensional tool that we can use for the facilities. This started back when they finished with all the modeling, and we put on the goggles, and you can look through a wall and see the electrical conduits and the plumbing behind the wall. So if there's ever a wet spot on the wall, we no longer have to cut a big hole in it. We can probably locate where the plumbing is and where the joints are, put a very, very small hole in it, drill it, put a borescope camera in there and start examining the surfaces behind to identify where the problems originate. That's going to save us a lot of money as well as protect the historic fabric and, elongate the life of it. But this tool is pretty technical. And it's bleeding edge technology, and as a matter of fact, it is leading edge for historic preservation. In the Michigan State Capitol, I just learned this a couple weeks ago, we are #1 leading this type of effort. And so much so, there is a company called Autodesk who creates the software AutoCAD, BIM modeling. They are partnering with us right now, and all the services and software, we are getting it for free as a beta because they are designing this technology with us because they know that the use of BIM modeling in the future will be very advantageous for all kinds of buildings. So we have folks on site who will be talking about that all morning and illustrating that, and it will be quite a show. The architects that we've partnered with out of Quinn Evans in DC have worked on Mount Vernon, the U.S. Capitol, and other buildings, and it's pretty impressive even when I've worked on it, but see it myself, it's pretty exciting. And that's just the technical nerd in me, probably.
Well, and it's really a big deal. This is a conference, first of all, it gives all of our staff and our leadership of our staff the opportunity to talk with other people that deal with similar kinds of facilities, but also showcases our operation here. And as Rob has mentioned, we're technology-wise, we're leading the nation. So this is really a chance to pat ourselves in the back and for Michigan to be a leader in this area. So this is really a big deal. And congratulations for landing it.
Thank you. The afternoon session really talks about our Rotunda Restoration Project and all the efforts that we put into documenting it. Now, 35 years ago, this project was completed by the Chrisman Company and Jerry Lawler and LSB staff back in the day, and they did a really good job with documentation. But with technology improving itself, we still looked for opportunities to improve upon that. So with use of photogrammetry, which is high-resolution photographs, video, filming, specifications of actually writing down the recipe of the plaster in different areas, what types of paint, whether it's oil or acrylic, we documented this so detailed that there's an actual story to tell. So the afternoon session will involve all of our staff who is involved with that and on the project, and give a really good breakdown of how other folks can handle a project of the same magnitude and hand off a great deal of documentation. Our goal is in 30 years that the next folks will not have as many questions as we did and be able to see what we actually did on video, in person. And we're still working on oral histories of the things from the past, because not only are we documenting the future, or what we're doing now in the future, we're also paying homage to the past. So we're going to go out to California and spend about 4 or 5 days with Carrie Chartkoff and a microphone and start downloading her knowledge so we can have it on record. We wanted her to come back. She was unable to, but we're going to go out there and get an oral history, and from Civil War battle flags to everything that she's touched, to the historical restoration project back in the day. And I know her and Valerie are going to probably lock themselves in a room and document even more. There's so much there, and she was a very valuable person as to why we are all here today, and we're just paying respect to that. So those are my updates. Any questions? Yeah.
And
I just would like to, again, commend our staff for the restoration, the ongoing restoration, preventative maintenance, and so that we are keeping this wonderful building looking good, and hopefully the day won't come when we have to put huge sums of money in because we didn't take care of it. And our staff is wonderful, and as you can tell, Rob has detailed plans for being sure that all this is done. And we have to thank the legislature, too. We've been very fortunate that they see the results, I think, and have funded these efforts to maintain this building for the people of Michigan. So thank you to all of our staff and Rob and
Thank you. I'll make sure they all know.
the legislature.
Yes.
thank you, Rob. Commissioner Oberlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a question about the tornado warning that happened about a week and a half ago.
Yes.
I can't recall it ever happening when I was here. I thought it went pretty well from my perspective, but I have, a ground level office. I just went out in the hall. It's pretty easy for me. But I know there were school groups here, and I'm just curious, were there lessons learned from that safety-wise or just procedure-wise?
The lessons learned is that we probably just need to communicate more regularly with everyone. We know there's turnover in the building, and we kind of took that for granted. Fortunately, everyone called, and it is quite simple. Ground floor, rotunda, the North Annex hallway, the connector to Heritage Hall, even the hallways behind the staterooms in Heritage Hall, and even the orientation rooms in Heritage Hall are your safest bets. I've always teased my wife at home, if there's ever a tornado, I'm coming to work, because we know that this is one of the safest places to be. But yes, there was a small communication gap because there were pockets of people who weren't up to speed on the procedures. So we need to do it probably more quarterly instead of annually, just to make sure that all the new folks in place are aware of the procedures.
Thanks. Commissioner Brown.
Can I comment on that as well? I agree, there was a little bit of question was going on at first. The House, of course, was in session at the time, which created another whole level of excitement. But I think the sergeants, with the help of your staff and the representatives and staff, were very cooperative in getting out of the chamber and getting down to the ground floor. And I know that there were school groups down there in the ground floor, but I think you were able to move them into Heritage Hall, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I thought it went, after the initial confusion, I thought it went very well, although there were a couple of representatives that thought they would stay in the chamber, but I explained to them that there's a lot of glass that could go flying. They understood and went downstairs. So, but yeah, it went well, but it was a new one for me, believe me. I've quit saying I've seen everything around here. I quit.
True statement.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it. Anybody else? The next item on the agenda is a request for weekend hours. The Commission received a letter from Senator Singh and 6 other legislators asking that we have weekend hours for visitors in the Capitol building, which we used to do pre-COVID. And it's really a well-received request, but we need to do a little bit of work. So we've talked with Rob about it. I've talked to Commissioner Oberlin. What we'd like to do is put together a plan. But I think Senator Singh would like to make a comment about it first.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members of the commission. Thank you for taking into consideration our request. I think it's twofold. I'm actually here, I have a colleague and friend from the Mid-Michigan area, Julie Pinkston, who runs the Lansing Visitors Bureau. And as you can imagine, this institution is an attraction for people who are visiting our state, visiting the Mid-Michigan area. In 2017, I had the opportunity to work with the commission at that point in time to open up for Saturday hours. I think you saw from our letter, most of our Midwest, actually all of our Midwest states, with the exception of us, have some level of weekend hours. Places like Ohio, Illinois, and Wisconsin actually are open on Saturdays and Sundays. I think what we're requesting is sort of to go back to at least what we had pre-pandemic. And I'll be honest, I didn't really realize we hadn't opened it back up after the pandemic. It wasn't until we had to cancel some sessions on Thursdays for youth and government to be able to have their full participation. And also that has some, issues when you're asking the legislature not to be in session so our young people can actually appreciate and have the opportunity to do what they've done for years here. So anyways, I think it's a simple request from those of us in Michigan, but I think it's broader support from my colleagues throughout both chambers to see some level of opening, and even if it's just back to where we were pre-pandemic, I think that would be a welcome opportunity. But if we can also keep our eye on the long term, potentially even opening this up on Sundays, I think that would be welcomed as well. So here to answer any quick questions. I know Julie would be available to answer any questions if you wanted to kind of get a sense of the impact this has for tourism here in the region. But just wanted to thank you for your serious consideration of this request.
Thank you. Anybody have any comments or questions, Senator? Commissioner.
First, I just want to say I really appreciate you, raising this issue, you and the other legislators. I think it's important. One of the things that, I'm fairly new to the commission, but one of the things that crossed my mind is, how do we become more part of, the community? We're not just the capital. We don't just stand by ourselves. We are part of the Lansing community. And, and I think, us finding ways to really kind of continue to partner, with the businesses around here, with the cities, with the convention bureaus, I think that it's a win-win for everyone. So I really appreciate you bringing this forward.
Thank you. Anybody else? John?
Thank you, Senator, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for agreeing to look into it. I'm strongly supportive of us expanding our hours, and I look forward to working with you on how the best way to do it. I understand we have considerations we have to take in, and we'll look at those, but I think it's an important thing for us to do. Thanks.
Commissioner Brown?
I appreciate the request too, and I think one of the things we have to keep in mind is that since when we were open on Saturdays, things have changed a lot around here, security-wise, and so that's going to be a challenge. And I think it would be helpful at some point, I don't know how we would do this, if we can do this in a closed session or open, it'd be helpful to meet with the chief sergeant of both House and the Senate, as well as the lieutenant from the state police, to get the understanding of how we are security-wise in the Capitol right now. What is our level? How we are manning up with all of this new additions that we have to have. So I think that's an important discussion we need to have in discussing this whole idea of opening up on Saturdays.
Absolutely. In fact, I'm asking Commissioner Oberlin if he would take charge of a small committee to put together a plan, working with staff. Rob has some ideas. We have to deal with security issues, as Commissioner Brown mentions, and put together like a list of the issues and then a plan about how we can, deal with all those issues and what it would take to implement them. And you're probably right. One of the biggest problems right now is security. We're having a hard time staffing up even to cover security in the hours that we have now. But hopefully that'll change as we can get more people on board. So yeah, so we got a plan to put together a plan, and hopefully we can get that done. Thank you. Okay, the next item is the America 250 event. Rob, you want to talk about that?
Yes, thank you. The America 250, again, we know is coming in 2026. In fact, I was contacted by the city of Lansing recently to meet together because they want to have a big event in July of 2026. And they said, being the capital, being the front porch of the city, they wanted to make sure that we are helping them plan what's going on. We currently don't know or have any big plans or what's going on, but I know I'm going to have Barb Thamudo and Valerie join me on this meeting initially, and then we'll bring in our event coordinator, Josie, so we can start planning what events are coming on here. I know there's other commissions out there that we probably need to get with and meet with, so we're all coordinating our efforts and not doing things separately. But it is definitely on our radar, and then after we meet with the mayor's office, I will report back with our findings and what their plans are initially.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions on the 250 Commission? Any other business that anybody wants to bring up that we haven't dealt with yet? Commissioner Brown?
I just want to go back to the security issue. I know that we have people that need to be vetted when they come into the Capitol, and I just noticed we had somebody come in that's apparently not been vetted, coming into the back of the room here. So if that person could identify themselves.
Not a word.
Welcome back, Mr. Clerk.
Any other new business? Do we have any comments from the public? Anybody from the public want to comment? None? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Commissioner Brown, supported by Commissioner Hobbs. Anybody opposed? Unanimous support for adjournment. Thank you very much. Meeting's adjourned.